The NFL playoffs are here. Wild card weekend. I got 3 player props for you over on Splash Sports. As always, use code ROTO10 over there. Get a free $50 match once you play $100. And QuickPicks over there. Make sure you're doing that to get that bankroll building. Let's get into the plays here. Pick number 1, Josh Allen over 43.5 rushing yards. It is a pretty popular narrative at this point in time with obviously big game Josh Allen and him liking to run the ball more in these big games, but it's a pretty true narrative, and I do think it's going to be a spot where he looks to move on the ground as well. Here, he did it last year in the playoffs, did it 2 years ago in the playoffs. He's done it in the 3 of his biggest games so far this season: Detroit, LA, Kansas City, all 55 or more rushing yards in those games for Josh Allen. So I like the spot here. And the Steelers have actually been giving up a lot of big plays on the ground as well. They're 20th in terms of explosive plays allowed. So I do think it's a good spot for Josh Allen to maybe have a couple of big runs as well. Pick number 2, we're going to a Week 18 hero. We're going to Quinton Johnson. We're taking the over 44.5 receiving yards. Very low number here after he went for 186 yards against the Raiders in Week 18. Clearly making a statement, I believe, trying to get him involved in the offense to see where he's going to be in terms of his ability to be incorporated in playoff game plans. And obviously, he showed up in a big way. I do think that translates to more opportunities here. It's also a good matchup here against Houston. Obviously, people are on the same page with Houston having a good defense, but in terms of where they're weak, it's against the wide receivers. They rank 25th in terms of receiving yards allowed to opposing wide receivers. So I do like this matchup for Johnson. I do think he has 50-plus yard upside here in this matchup against the Texans in a spot where I do think the Chargers have to throw a little bit. So give me the over on Quinton Johnson. Pick number 3, we're doing it again. We're going back to a quarterback and his rushing prop here. We've had some success in weeks past, so let's keep it rolling here. Lamar Jackson over 49.5 rushing yards. Obviously, down the stretch here, Lamar's been fighting for a position in terms of being the number 1 seed, and obviously also being the MVP. And it was just a few weeks ago, I believe, on that primetime game against the Chargers, where he came out and said that he needs to be able to take off and run the ball more. And since that game, 63-plus rushing yards in 4 of his last 5 games. Yes, one of the games where he did not clear this number was against this same Pittsburgh team. Pittsburgh is pretty good at sort of holding quarterbacks in the pocket, and they're not allowing them to run for very many yards here. But he also faced his team early on, middle of November, had 46 rushing yards in a game where they blew out the Steelers. So I do think Lamar is obviously going to want to get it done with his legs here. No Zay Flowers, so I do think the Ravens turn to a more run-heavy approach as well. Again, it's going to be a competitive game here against the Steelers. I do think the matchup is the reason why this number is a little bit too low here, 49.5. But Lamar, obviously, he can beat any single matchup. So give me the over here on Lamar Jackson.